Ruff and Tumble arrived on the Commodore Amiga in 1994, developed by Wunderkind Software and published by Renegade. Jason Perkins handled the programming, Robin Levi created the graphics, and Jason Page supplied the awesome music. What still amazes me is that this was Wunderkind Software's first and only game. I remember this one being all over the magazines as a kid, and really wanting it, but there was no chance I could afford it. Luckily, one of my mates lent me a copy on a blank disc. I'll be honest, I never paid much attention to game storylines back in the day, especially not for platformers, but there's some business about Ruff losing his marbles down a rabbit hole, ending up in Dr. Destiny's world, and having to get them back. I didn't even know this till recently. What mattered was that instead of another Rainbow Islands type game where you're bouncing around collecting fruit, Ruff gives you a gun and lets you shoot the shit out of everything in sight, which is much better. And there's a hell of a lot of shooting. Tinheads pour out of generators scattered around the levels, and if you leave those generators alone, they'll just keep pumping the little sods out. Taking the generators down quickly makes life a lot easier, especially once you've got enemies coming at you from several directions. You start with the basic pea shooter, but there are much better weapons dotted around the levels, and some of them are great fun to use. Unfortunately, anything better than the pea shooter comes with ammunition that constantly ticks down, so these weapons are very temporary. That was always the biggest disappointment with this game. You finally get hold of something that absolutely tears through the tinheads, start enjoying yourself, and within no time at all, the bloody thing is gone, and you're back to firing peas at them again. Yes, I know it's not a pea shooter. The platforming can be a bit awkward as well. Ruff carries quite a lot of momentum when he lands, so trying to drop neatly onto a small platform can sometimes feel surprisingly skiddy. You think you've nailed the jump, land exactly where you wanted, then carry straight on off the other side. It becomes much more noticeable later on when the game starts demanding more accurate jumps. There's also plenty of gaps in the floor that you don't always spot until Ruff has already disappeared down one, and dropping down deliberately can be a complete gamble. Sometimes you find a nice secret area packed with power-ups and goodies, other times you've landed bollocks first on a spike. Until you learn the levels, you're never entirely sure whether the game is rewarding your curiosity or preparing to punish you for having any. You also need to collect enough red, green and blue marbles before you can leave each stage, with the totals shown at the top of the screen here. That sounds straightforward until you reach the exit and discover you're one bloody marble short. Then you're heading backwards through a huge level, trying to remember where you missed it. And these aren't small stages either. There are hidden areas, keys, energy pickups and different routes all over the place, so exploration is worthwhile, but having to retrace your steps can be a complete pain in the arse. Fantasy Forest is probably the area most people picture when Ruff and Tumble gets mentioned, and it still looks gorgeous. Huge trees, caves, waterfalls and loads of colourful scenery give it a really lively look, although I suspect quite a few of you never saw much beyond it because this game isn't exactly easy. From there you move into the underground mine, then the Tinhead factory, and finally Dr. Destiny's castle, with tougher enemies and nastier hazards appearing as you go. Water, slippery surfaces, machinery, force fields, spikes and moving platforms all start getting involved, and by the later stages Ruff and Tumble becomes difficult as hell. The bosses need learning, and some enemies can take a stupid amount of punishment. You can be emptying bullets into one, thinking surely that must be enough by now, only for the bastard to keep coming. Shooting on slopes can get on my nerves too. Ruff's gun doesn't follow the angle particularly well, so you can have an enemy standing slightly above you, while half your shots sail harmlessly underneath him. His bullets naturally seem to have no trouble whatsoever finding you. It's not game-breaking, but when you've already taken a battering it certainly doesn't help. Then there's the scrolling, which has probably been discussed more than anything else in Ruff and Tumble. It isn't as smooth as you'd expect, especially compared with something like Turrican 2, and I can see why people criticise it. It just never bothered me anywhere near as much as it seems to bother some of you guys. Once I'm into the game and concentrating on everything around me, I tend to forget about it fairly quickly. Jason Page's music is superb as well. It has a much heavier rock and industrial sound than you might expect from a game about a blonde kid chasing his marbles, but it suits the action brilliantly. Once the shooting starts and the soundtrack kicks in, it gives the whole game a much harder edge than the colourful artwork initially suggests. Amiga Power gave Ruff and Tumble 88% when it was released, praising the graphics, sound and level design. while also pointing out the difficulty and a few of its irritations. They even suggested brushing up on your swear words before playing, which is probably some of the most useful advice ever printed in an Amiga magazine, as I have probably used a few in this video, as it is. Look at it this way though guys, Ruff and Tumble also arrived pretty late in the Amiga's commercial life. By 1994, things, as we all know, were changing pretty quickly, with PCs becoming more tempting thanks to the arrival of games like Doom, and newer consoles getting more attention. A game like this would appear, and remind us just how much life was still left in the old Amiga. I was also at the age where my game collection somehow seemed to be growing considerably faster than my ability to afford any of it. No idea how that happened. More than 30 years later, at the point of making this video, Ruff and Tumble has been given another lease of life. July 2026, Almost There Games released Ruff for Windows and Linux, a free modern recreation that keeps the 16 stages and 4 boss battles, while adding widescreen support, smoother movement, modern controller support, save slots, easy and classic difficulty modes, and a dedicated jump button. Nope, I wasn't paid to say any of that either. The game is absolutely free. Robin Levi's original artwork has been retained, which I'm pleased about, because it really didn't need replacing. You do need the original Amiga Disk 1 and 2 ADF files, but once those are in place, the new engine handles everything else. And yes, the scrolling is smoother as well, which is good. It only took 32 years. I've put a link in the description if you fancy trying it, but going back to the original Amiga version, I still rate Ruff and Tumble very highly. It has its frustrations and I certainly wouldn't pretend otherwise, but none of them outweigh what the game gets right. It's fast, great fun to play, looks absolutely fantastic, and still feels remarkably ambitious for something running on a standard Amiga 500. And when you look at who actually made up Wunderkind Software, perhaps Ruff and Tumble being this good shouldn't be such a surprise. Jason Perkins had already worked on C64 games like Thing on a Spring, Monty on the Run, and Gauntlet before moving on to Amiga titles like Time Machine and Apocalypse. Robin Levi had an equally impressive background, with graphics work on Armalite, Last Ninja 3, Turbocharged Myth, and Putty. Then you've got Jason Page, who'd already produced music for the likes of Sensible Soccer, Fire and Ice, and Iridium 2. Put those three together, and suddenly, Ruff and Tumble makes a lot of sense. There was a ridiculous amount of talent under that Wunderkind name, which makes it even more of a shame that this was the only game they made together. What a bloody good game to leave us with though. For me, Ruff and Tumble still gets a massive thumbs up. If you played it back in 1994, let me know what you thought of it at the time. Was the Amiga still your main machine by then, or had you already started moving over to the PC? And where does Ruff and Tumble sit for you among the Amiga's best platformers? There were plenty of great ones, so I'd be interested to see which games you'd put above it. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, subscribe for more Commodore Amiga and Commodore 64 stuff, and hopefully, I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, bye for now. It's that time again guys, just a quick shout out to say thank you to all you YouTube and Patreon followers. Stay retro.
Thank you.